Business organization Sakeliga has told the electricity minister how to slash power cuts by up to 3 stages. In fact, it sent him a report on value for money state procurement. This after Minister Piet Le Roux highlighted that non-value adding intermediaries are causing unnecessary supply chain delays. To tell us more, I'm joined by Sakeliga CEO Piet Le Roux. A very good morning, Piet. Let's talk about that. When we talk about the value chain of how everything works in unison to get us out of the dark, how would you unpack that for us this morning?
Well, Mr. Ramokgopa did a good job at explaining that Eskom, of course, is a very complex organization with many massive power stations and many linkages and supply chain complexities that add to that, and staffing complexities and so on. Now, part of keeping Eskom working as it should, providing reliable and cheap energy, is making sure that there's a supply chain that if something breaks down, which happens all the time, that a replacement part is available or somebody able to contract and service that breakdown is available as soon as possible. The problem, as explained by Mr. Ramokgopa and by Eskom's own calculation, is that their middleman strategy, their procurement strategy over the past few years have led to a situation where, in their estimation, we are experiencing an average of 3 additional stages of what's it called, blackouts, before because of supply chain inefficiencies, the so-called middlemen or the non-value adding intermediaries. That's what's causing at least 3 stages, well, an average 3 stages of lockdown, according to Eskom and Minister Ramokgopa.
And Piet, would the solution suggested just in recent weeks of getting additional power elsewhere outside of our borders, would that be a lasting solution that adds to this non-value adding intermediaries? I mean, would that assist in terms of a long-term plan, do you think?
Well, the long-term thing to realize is that electricity is too important to be left to the state or to be left to Eskom. And so the long-term solution is a complete privatization, decentralization of electricity provision, which is happening de facto in South Africa with the kind of solar we're seeing now. But even beyond solar, I think the future of electricity generation in South Africa and distribution and transmission is private. And if the state still wants to play a role, that's fine. But it's too important to just think on what can Eskom do to solve the power crisis. Now, that may include wheeling in power from across the South African border, whether it's from the sea or whether it's from other countries, doesn't really matter. Many things are possible. As far as Eskom itself is concerned, the main thing there is that it has huge installed capacity, and it frequently only is able to deliver half of its installed capacity. And part of that is its middlemen that are causing these huge delays. And that must be seen in the context of Eskom, and Sakeliga knows this because we've been litigating on matters of state procurement for over 5 years now, and we've had some constitutional court victories. So Eskom's supply chain strategy, its procurement strategy, was developed within the context where it prioritized BEE, and it prioritized local content, and it prioritized political connections, and it didn't prioritize stable and cheap electricity. And so our report explains to the minister how, and in any state-owned entity, but Eskom as well, it explains the legal implications of the Constitutional Court victory by Sakeliga last year on state procurement, on BEE-focused state procurement, and it helps the minister show him the way where if he wants to, and if there is a political will, there can immediately be reform within Eskom to address these 3 average stages of additional and unnecessary load shedding because of its state procurement supply chain strategy up to now.
Thank you so much, Piet Le Roux, for that very in-depth explanation. Piet speaks for Sakeliga.